Billy Donovan speaks out about what the Chicago Bulls are focused on this season, and we're also going to be talking about the latest update around Ayo Dosummu and his injury status. And so this is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today we are looking at what Billy Donovan had to say in regards to what the Chicago Bulls are really focusing on as far as winning basketball. And then also, too, he does talk about the Chicago Bulls and, this whole pick situation. So I think it's very interesting what he had to say. Then also, too, Ayo Dosummu, he's been out as of late due to a calf injury. So we do have an injury update. And so first, let's go ahead and jump into what Billy Donovan had to say. If you want to check this out, you can see this on ESPN.com. And it says Donovan, the Bulls' first round pick, not part of his talks with the front office. And so here is a little of what Billy Donovan had to say in regards to the Chicago Bulls and where they're at. And so he's saying that, look, nobody is saying to him, talking about this first round pick, that is something that, Billy Donovan has to consider as he's going up here and coaching the team. I'm obviously paraphrasing this, but he's talking about the Chicago Bulls being competitive at this point in time and really going out there and competing and how he appreciates this. And he also goes on to talk about the Chicago Bulls also being in a situation right now where we don't want to be just stuck in the middle. I don't think there's any question about that. So Billy Donovan acknowledges the fact that the Chicago Bulls are kind of stuck in this position of being in the middle. And then, finally, one of the other things that Billy Donovan talks about, and I think that is very interesting here, and this is again in this article, but he talks about, identifying the guys that are going to help you get out of the middle, right? And so I think in this particular piece, I'm just kind of getting that, Billy Donovan is very much into the evaluation period and trying to find out which players are going to help him move forward or help this franchise move forward. So, just going back initially to what Billy Donovan said and now just thinking about this. And so, I definitely think that the Chicago Bulls are not a team that is tanking. I think that they're not tanking. I also think that as the season goes along, this team is going to move further away from that notion of tanking. And I think that they're also moving into a place where they're really kind of You're playing a really tight game here between holding on to the pick and not, because, this Chicago Bulls team, it's getting ready to run into a certain portion of the schedule where really if they take advantage of it, they could get hot, right? And so, the front office, if they were going to tank, in my opinion, right, if they were going to do this, I think that they could have, maybe already tried to just ship off players and obviously taken lesser value for the players. And I'm not suggesting that you do that, but I'm just saying if the front office was that drastic to do so, then I think that they really had opportunities to do that. And I don't see the Chicago Bulls doing that. I don't see the front office doing that. I don't see them going out there and really just shipping off one of these stars, whether it's LaVine, Vooch, Lonzo, for really nothing. Like, I just kind of get that feeling that AK at this point in time, he's kind of got the standard set and he's just not going to come off of that. And so that suggests to me that it is not going to be tanking. And then as far as the winning situation, like, I really do believe, that Billy Donovan and these players are all locked in towards winning. Like, I know that this team, we know, on paper, we know that it's going to be tough for this team to really compete in a 7-game series with anybody, right? Like a play-in situation, like I said before, I think that is really like, that's probably the level before the max in the season. Like, I think if you outright qualified for the playoffs and you got into it without having to go into the play-in situation this year, like, I think that would be really an incredible season just where this roster is at. And, with the Zach LaVine situation and how well he's playing, like, look, Zach LaVine at this point in time, I mean, it seems like the relationship with the organization, it looks like that has been mended. He's been super efficient. He's been on a low usage rate or a lower usage rate. So that suggests that he's really not in the way for some of these younger guys and kind of taking off. And the same with Vooch as well. Like they're both playing at an all-star level. You know, with LaVine, I think he's having one of his better true shooting percentages here in his career. And currently right now, I mean, 23.1 points per game, 4.6 rebounds a game, 4.5 assists a game, you know, 50.9% from the field. I think he's at a career best shooting 44% from three. Like, you know, and they're letting Zach LaVine do his thing. And I think that, you know, this front office, I think really the team has gotten comfortable with Vooch and LaVine being here. And so, you know, I just don't see necessarily a scenario in which, you know, he's definitely moved this year, especially with the CBA. And I think that if they were going to really go into this tanking situation, then that suggests that you would maybe move away from LaVine and maybe take him off the floor more. It also suggests to me that, you know, if the Bulls were really trying to go into a tanking situation, then, you know, there's times where we saw Torrey Craig playing over like Modest Buzelis. Like we probably should have seen Modest Buzelis play a little bit more. You would think that Dalen Terry would be playing more. You would think that Julian Phillips would be playing more, right? Like certain things like that would suggest that the Bulls are in that direction. And I've never gotten that feel from this team. And really, as they continue to win games, I think that we're really seeing a team in which it's almost shaping into the same situation as last season, you know, led by LaVine and Vooch. Like these players are really just, it's almost the same thing. We're almost seeing this because Kobe White, now he's starting to take off again, and I'm starting to get that same feeling from the team. And so not that I don't like this team to go out there and compete. I absolutely do. I love that about this team. And I do eventually want to see this team, you know, compete again at a high level, not just for a first round playoff entry and then a quick out, but like actually getting to the point where this team is really ready to make some noise. And we know in order for this team to do so, they need to make some changes, right? Like they need to make some serious changes, and you have really got to make sure that if some of these younger players are going to be around, like Billy Donovan is talking about, you got to find out who you're going to really build with, you know, and who you need to go ahead and move on from. And so I think that the Chicago Bulls are definitely trying to win as many games as possible. I think that they're in a situation where they're still in an evaluation period. And it wouldn't shock me if Vooch, LaVine, or Lonzo are not moved. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, that's necessarily the path, but it wouldn't shock me if they're still on the team and, you know, we continue to keep rolling with this same unit. Excuse me, especially since you see evidence that the Chicago Bulls are still out here trying to win some games. And so, and even if they did move on from LaVine, or not LaVine, but from Lonzo and Vooch, with the way that LaVine is playing, I just talked about his stats, even with like Kobe White, Josh Giddey on the team, and these other younger players, like I still think that they would still be an exciting team that is going to get some wins, and they're going to be right there. And also too, we don't know if those players are moved, what players are coming back in a deal there, right? Because I would think that the players that are coming back are also going to play a factor here, which is why I don't see the Chicago Bulls tanking. And honestly speaking, look, they should not sell off any stars, and just attach draft assets to move them just to make this team worse. And also, too, like if you're going to go out there and trade a player, you might as well go ahead and trade players to set your franchise up, for the long haul. And so I think that that's just the bottom line. Whatever the Chicago Bulls do, they need to have a plan. But we get a chance to see what Billy Donovan is really thinking here as, you know, he's talking about winning games, and that the front office and him do not have these talks about going out here and making moves to secure, you know, this first round pick in this upcoming draft. And so next up, I wanted to talk about the new injury update around Ayo Dosummu. This is something I did not get a chance to talk about in last night's game. But according to, you know, a tweet here from 670 to Score, it looks like that Ayo Dosummu is set to at least miss another week. From what I'm seeing here, it looks like that he's still doing some rehab work. Still maybe hasn't gotten to the point of sprinting. You see that right there with what Billy Donovan had to say. And what I will say about that is that a calf injury is very tricky. We see that Luka has been out, I think, a couple times with a calf injury. And it's something that can be re-injured very quickly. And it can actually turn to something far worse. And so you definitely want to take some time with this. I think that Ayo, much like Kobe White, I think that these guys are building block pieces. I'm not in the camp of trading either of those players, even though we're going to have to go into the negotiation table with them at some point very shortly. But I think that you keep him. And so with this situation and Ayo, he was really coming on. He's averaging 12.6 points, 3.9 rebounds a game, 4.8 assists, and shooting 49% from the field. But he's up in points, he's up in rebounds, and he's up in assists. So really, Ayo's been coming on. And I also seen a stat like over his last 12, he'd been averaging 14 and a half, 5.7 assists, 1.4 steals, and 53.1% over his last 12. So he was really, really coming on. And so the question now is, when he does come back, will Kobe White still be on the heater? Like, will he still be at a level of comfort when he gets back? I think that both of these players have played well in the backcourt. And so I want to see what is going to happen when you incorporate Ayo back. And does this team take another step forward in the win department when you do get him back? Because we know what he can do defensively. And we also see that, he's also distributing the basketball at a higher clip as well. So he's becoming a bit more of a playmaker. And I think it's just a matter of time before his three-point shot comes back. Because one of the things that I think that Ayo was figuring out, maybe taking a page out of Kobe White's book before Kobe White started to do this with driving to the basket, I think that that's something that Ayo was doing. He's been like a one-man fast break. And so I think at some point, he's going to start to get some open looks. He's going to start to knock those down. And I think he's really going to take off. And it's just, how does this team really blend together once he gets back? I think that that's going to be interesting. And who knows, if the team looks a little bit different when he gets back as well. I mean, I know we still have some time until the trade deadline, a lot of noise out there. Like I said, I would not be surprised if this team really stays the same, but who knows? But there is a lot of chatter out there. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this recent comments, I should say, about Billy Donovan. And just saying that, hey, you know what? The front office has not come to me and talked about anything to do with, tanking or anything like that. And just about his focus on winning. And also, too, his comments about, just trying to find the players that are going to help this team get out of the middle. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And also, too, let me know what you're thinking about this new recent update with Ayo. Do you think that, yes, Ayo is going to help this team really take off once he gets back? Do you think that maybe that might be a little bit of an interesting fit once he does get back, considering that players are really starting to take off like Kobe White? So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Just want to thank everybody out there for liking, sharing, and subscribing to the content. It means a lot to us here in Bulls Digest as we try to reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers before the end of the NBA season out there. So make sure that you mash, subscribe, and slam dunk on that subscribe button for us, as it means a lot. So look, even though the Chicago Bulls, just bottom line, look, I get it. If you're not focused on the pick and tanking, that's fine. Bottom line is you need to have a plan of action. You need to really have a direction, and that's it. Whatever the Bulls decide to do, they need to have a course of direction in whatever trade that they're doing, whatever free agent signing that they're doing. And I like the fact that they are getting an actual philosophy. I do like the fact that they're executing that from an offensive standpoint. It's just clear now that this team needs to do some other things as far as really just getting on the right track with some of their off the court kind of transactions and things like that, whether it's trades, free agents, whatever. So anyway, let me know in the comments. And as I always say, go Bulls. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.